Most people carry an unspoken assumption that shapes their choices even without realizing it. And these assumptions, they can quietly set limits way before any real effort has been made. So if you've been just caught yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, or it's too late for me. I know I simplified those a little bit, but you're not alone. Assumptions like those, when they're repeated often, so many times in your head, well, they start to feel like real facts. You'll have knee-jerk reactions or responses when somebody comes up or you get an idea that will come in and stop you. And they can block you from even starting. And they can keep you from fully committing, especially to something that you actually want. They can create ways where you can get started on something, start to see some success, and then you instantly either stop or you drift off course and you never reach your goal. And those patterns of thinking can cover every part of your life, and it could really expand. So, for instance, it might be your health. Maybe it's your career, your relationships, or your finances. And you might have assumed that you're too out of shape to make progress, that you're not smart enough to make any new changes or take on any new challenges, or maybe you don't have enough money to create the life you want. You might assume that there's not enough time, that there's always going to be something that's way too hard, or that you won't be able to have the support that you need. So if you've repeated these thoughts over and over and over again, well, they can almost feel like they're set in stone. Like, nope, this is just the way life is. Has that ever happened to you? Well, before we dig into all this amazing stuff, and maybe you learned from the tips today, I want to encourage you to, if you're ready to stop letting go of a lot of the assumptions out there, and really decide to reach for what you're capable of and start building a mindset that fuels your goals. Head over to talktoperry.com. I'm going to, for you on the video, I've got it down in the lower third there. We can work together for 15 minutes just to map out the shift to get you moving again. That's over at talktoperry.com. So with these assumptions, there's a magnificent switch that you can flip to totally change those limitations. You ready to hear about it? It's where the law of polarity becomes powerful. Have you ever heard of that law? I hadn't heard of it for a long time, but the law of polarity is considered one of the universal laws in personal development. And it's the idea that if one thing exists, there's an opposite that must also exist. So if that's the case, for every limiting assumption that you've been holding on to and clinging to and trying to defend, there's an opposite perspective that you could begin to believe and act on. If anything, that should seem really empowering to you. So if the thought is, I'm not good enough, the opposite, I'm very capable and growing every day. If the assumption is, I'm too old, the opposite could be, I have the life experience and perspective to do this well. If the thought is, I don't know what to do, well, the opposite is, I can figure out things one step at a time. Like Marie Forleo says, everything is figure-outable. This is not pretending that challenges don't exist. It's just really building a new mental baseline that when challenges come up and you begin to work from more of an empowered place instead of one that's limited or one where you feel defeated. And the more you choose the opposite belief and even just take one action from that belief, well, the more that you're training your mind to look for what's possible instead of what's missing. So, really become aware of these things. If there's anything in this podcast, it's this power of awareness that you can choose to see and start believing the opposite. Now, the big part of this shift, and I know what you're already thinking about, and I'm going to get to that because you're probably saying, well, Perry, what about this? What about this? And you're ready to, because I don't see any evidence around me. I'm going to get to that. But the big part of this shift is noticing how automatic your assumptions have become. So do this. Start catching them in real time. So if you hear yourself thinking or even saying, I don't have enough support, just pause. Ask yourself, who could I ask for help? Where could I find support? If your thought is, I can't make enough money, just catch yourself there and just say, what's one way I could start increasing my income? Now, when you start to interrupt those old assumptions and you put into focus a new possibility, you start building momentum in the opposite direction. And this is so cool. You just got to put it into practice. So when I find myself in one of those assumptions, and I've done this many, many times, and I catch it, but for instance, if this is too hard, this is going to take too much time, why even bother? I hit what I call a mental edit undo button, because I'll be like, oh, what's that? What's coming up there? That's not the direction I want to go. Edit undo. So that's me, because it's like a word processing thing. I hit that button and then I create the opposite assumption. This is going to be way easy and I'm going to learn so much along the way. Or time is going to pass with ease and flow and I will grow. So you see, absence of evidence does not mean evidence is absent. And this is where you were probably going before, because you're probably looking for evidence around you going, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. Just because you haven't seen proof yet, that something's possible, it does not mean it can't happen. And many people only look for evidence that really that matches their current assumptions. So we're looking around. It's like, yes, I am powerful. Things are ease and flow. And then we look for things that are not in ease and flow, not that's really too hard, that's really too complicated, that makes me feel unworthy. And we look for that evidence and we stop it right there. That's just living into the current thing. It's like, oh, if I know just because the evidence isn't here doesn't mean it isn't possible. So if you believe that that you're going to fail, you'll notice every possible sign that confirms that. I've worked with people before. They would get to a certain point in their fitness journey, and then they'll say something like, oh my gosh, day 45, I just got to get through day 45 because that's the day. Right around that day is when I start to sabotage myself, do self-sabotage. I start to overeat and whatever. And they would almost live up to that every single time, not realizing they just needed to stop telling themselves that story. If you begin assuming that you can succeed, you're going to stop spotting. Well, so you get to the assumption that, hey, I'm going to succeed. You're going to find the resources, the connections, the opportunities, and you're going to see that they were there all along. Have you ever gone to the grocery store and you're like, oh my gosh, check out this new item, and it's been there all along. You just didn't notice it. Or when you bought a new car and you think you're one of the few that own it and you drive out, everybody else has one. You're like, whoa, what's that? Maybe not everybody, but you'll notice it more prominently. One of the assumptions that really helped me back, oh gosh, way back was for so long. I was using this assumption. I was saying, you know what? It's just too late in life for me. And this is at the turning point where I was going to be going into my 40s. I was out of shape, overweight, overwhelmed, and I'm like, oh man, I see all this evidence that people really, that they were out of shape, overwhelmed, just like, and they were just a little bit older than me. So that's the path, right? And it was just it was too late in life for me to just get in shape. And I let that hold me back for so long. Then one day I'm like, says who? Is that even true? Let's disprove that. And that's the journey I went on. And hey, I encourage you, if you are ready to challenge those assumptions that have really been keeping you from being stuck and you really want to replace those, especially with a mindset that moves you forward, I encourage you, when you're ready, head over to talktoperry.com. We can get clear on your shift that you want and really help you take the next steps with absolute confidence and clarity. Every assumption that you challenge, it's making room for a new belief. And every new belief that you have, you start to practice, it makes it easier to take action that really aligns with the goal that you're going after. So your assumptions, they're not fixed. They're not the fixed truth. And a lot of times people you'll live up to those things. Start being aware of these. And when you are, don't get down on yourself. Just say, you know what, this is just a starting point. When you take those starting points and you really start to make them stronger and more supportive for yourself, you begin giving yourself that chance to create results that match the life that you want. So it really boils down to deciding and committing to yourself and your goals, and using this power of awareness here and even the law of polarity of choosing the opposite. So you're choosing to figure out new ways, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. You can drop those down in the comments. I absolutely appreciate you. You rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.